Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024. So we have just had this announcement that King Charles III of the United Kingdom, Britain's king, has been diagnosed with some form of cancer. I think he'd been in hospital, for prostate enlargement or something like that. And it seems that while he was there, they found some other form of cancer. I think they called it incidental. And this is something I want to discuss. Now, at this stage, I do understand that you could make a criticism of what I often do with this channel. So what I do is I take an event that's already happened, and then I analyze it astrologically. And of course, the role of the astrologer is actually to make predictions, isn't it? It's not to talk about events after they've happened, but it's supposed to be about talking about the events before they happen. And so I do understand the criticism of this channel. I don't think I've seen anyone make that criticism, but it's perhaps a criticism that I can foresee. Now, in terms of Charles III, I do have a defence here because I was quite close, I think. I put a video out middle of January, and it was a video about I think it was a week ahead for the week starting on January the 15th. And I had a picture of Prince Charles, the same picture as I've got on the thumbnail of this video. And I talked about him, and I said that things weren't actually looking too good. And this was before he went into hospital for this prostate thing. I think it happened that week. There was Pluto had was moving into Aquarius. So it was square his moon in Taurus. And I also looked ahead to the full moon on January the 25th, which is right bang over his ascendant-descendant aspect. And I discussed this, and I said, it didn't look too good for him, but I didn't talk about his health. I wasn't specific. Perhaps I should have been specific. Perhaps if I'd tried a bit harder. But I do feel that I kind of saw that something was up with King Charles, but I wasn't able to be specific. I was just looking at lots of people that week, so I wasn't making any great effort to be specific. But I did see that full moon and how that could have had an impact on him. I'm not doing this to sort of sing my own praises. if you look back at the video and you'd have a sort of a skeptical view, you'd say, well, I wasn't specific. But I do feel that I was able to see that things weren't sort of looking too good for him. But in this video, yes, I do want to look at what has already happened. I have been looking at King Charles's chart, and I want to consider the possibility that he might be in danger. Now, we know that he's been diagnosed with cancer. That could mean absolutely anything. And I suppose we have to remember that King Charles is an extremely rich man who has got access to the absolute best medical care in the world, who I'm assuming he gets regular checkups, and if I would have assumed that if cancer had been found, it had been found early. So there's no reason to believe that he's in imminent danger of dying. Nonetheless, I want to kind of go through the exercise of seeing if he's going to die over the next few years. I'm not, and I must make it clear, but I'm not predicting that he's going to die. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just going through the exercise, and I just want to use primary directions to just look at, possible times that might be dangerous. There was this astrologer in the 19th century called John Worsdale who specialised in predicting death, and he talked about this thing called the terminus vitae. Terminus vitae, obviously being Latin for end of life, and he took the view that there was, in terms of primary directions, there was one direction, which was the terminus vitae, the one that was going to kill us. And so, I want to try and see if I can find a direction that Worsdale might have categorized as the terminus vitae. And I really, really must make it clear, I'm not trying to make any predictions about King Charles's longevity. I'm sure that he's, as I said, he's got excellent care. If he has they've found some cancer, it'll I'm sure almost certainly be, at an early stage, and I'm sure, certain things should be fine. And I'm not saying that as an astrologer. I just think it's kind of obvious. And both his parents lived almost to the age of 100, so there's no reason to think that anything desperately serious is going on. But as I said, I still want to go through the exercise, and I do want to look at his chart in general, and see what might have been going on. But before I do that, I want to look at the astrology and the I Ching for today, which is Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024. So top right, that is King Charles. I've had that photograph up before. I think I had that up on a video that I put out, for the week starting on Monday, January the 15th. But so what's actually going on today? The moon is still in Capricorn. It's sort of middle of the sign. So there it is at 17 Capricorn, and it's actually very close to Venus. I mean, there's a run up to a Moon-Venus conjunction in Capricorn. So this chart, by the way, is set for February the 7th, 2024, today, Wednesday, in New York. Moon-Venus conjunctions are, all things being equal, are pretty fortunate. I mean, the Moon and Venus are both planets, connected with being receptive. They often have links to relationships, there's a certain pleasantness to Moon-Venus conjunction, to the Moon-Venus conjunction. Also, you'll notice that Venus is making a trine to Uranus. So it's not just the fact that the moon is conjunct Venus, it's the fact that the moon is trining Uranus. Now, this Moon-Venus conjunction in Capricorn perhaps isn't an entirely typical conjunction because it's in Capricorn. The moon is in its detriment in Capricorn. That's because it rules Cancer, so it's in its detriment in the opposite sign. Moon in Capricorn can be quite selfish, can be overly focused on material details. And so a Moon-Venus conjunction in Capricorn is not as emotional and gushing as, say, a Moon-Venus conjunction in, say, Pisces or Cancer. It's a bit more transactional. People thinking, well, how can I benefit from this relationship? What's in it for me? And I think that is going to be a theme. So, yes, many of us can relate very well to other people, but I think we're going to have an agenda. And likewise, if other people are relating to us very well, you have to ask, what is their agenda? What is it? What do they want? Now, that's not a problem. We all want something. But until you know what someone wants, it's kind of difficult to trust them, isn't it? You have to know why. Why is someone being so pleasant? Why is someone being so nice? What are they trying to achieve? So that is something that we need to consider with that Moon-Venus conjunction. There's also the fact that Venus is trine Uranus. So Venus trine Uranus, things can happen quickly and unexpectedly. So certain relationships may move quickly, one way or the other. I mean, relationships can come together quickly and they can split apart quickly. With Venus trine Uranus, people's attractions and attentions could be quite brief. I think that some people may get bored pretty quickly. So do consider that if relationships are important to you today. So another thing going on is that Saturn is quintile Uranus. So that means that Saturn is exactly 72 degrees from Uranus. There is, you can see what I mean. So Saturn is at 7 Pisces, Uranus is at 19 Taurus, so 72 degrees apart. 72 degrees is 1/5 of the circle. It's being a quintile, it's very much connected with style and what we're trying to create. So, this Saturn quintile Uranus, which I did discuss, if you look back at my video for the week ahead, I discussed that video. I discussed this aspect between Saturn and Uranus, and I think it may be that some of us are trying a little too hard to demonstrate to the world how tense we are. Some people might deliberately try to create an atmosphere of tension, because it might feel that by making people tense, by making people nervous, that's the way to get results. So, bear that in mind if someone is trying to make you nervous, if someone's trying to scare you, if someone is trying to stir things up. What are they trying to achieve? Remember, Moon is in Capricorn at the moment. There's in any situation you have to consider, cui bono, who's going to benefit? Someone's going to benefit with Moon in Capricorn. So that Saturn quintile Uranus, is quite an important aspect, not least because, Saturn and Uranus are outer planets. Aspects between outer planets tend to be longer lasting and more important than planets between aspects with inner planets. So yes, look at the tension. If there is tension, try to ask yourself why there is tension and what people are doing to create tension. This may not just be on a personal level. It just may be on a societal level. It's what countries are doing, what governments are doing. It seems that some governments, it's in their interests, or they feel it's in their interests, to create an environment where everyone is on edge. Maybe it's a good way of making people feel enthusiastic about war and violence and that kind of thing. Create a bit of fear as well. Always good to have some fear, isn't it, if you're a government? There are a few midpoints today to consider. Well, possibly the most important midpoint is Saturn on the Venus-Mars midpoint. So you can see this here. You can see there's Venus, there's Mars. So the midpoint between Venus and Mars is about 22 Capricorn. So Saturn is 45 degrees from the Venus-Mars midpoint. So Saturn on the Venus-Mars midpoint possibly has implications for relationships. Venus and Mars, is a conjunction often connected with sexuality. And so with Saturn hitting Venus Mars, we might get a sense of emotional repression, maybe. Romance may not be well starred with Saturn making a 45-degree aspect to Venus and Mars. I know that astrologers are supposed to say how wonderful things are romantically, but with Saturn semisquare Venus Mars, I mean, that's not good. Romantic activities may not go to plan. There may just be a sense in which someone is just not able to let go. And so if you're, in terms of things like intimacy, physical intimacy and so forth, Saturn on the Venus-Mars midpoint may not really perform very well. Another way about looking at Saturn on the Venus-Mars midpoint is that intimacy may come with a price. I mean, financial price. Moon in Capricorn conjunct Venus. So that kind of fits together. Moon in Capricorn is about relationships, but in Capricorn, what does someone want from this relationship? What is someone prepared to exchange? And then you've got Saturn making a 45-degree aspect to the Venus-Mars, so it's kind of more of the same. But I'm not saying that that completely describes the day. Mercury, for example, is aspecting the Venus-Uranus midpoint. So people can say things which are exciting. There can be excitement in terms of relationships, as well, because we've got Venus trine Uranus. That is an exciting combination. But you just have to look at the overall picture, and just remember that different people are impacted by different planets at different times. So one group of people might be influenced by the Saturn on the Venus-Mars. Another group of people may be more of a Venus-Uranus day. So you have to weigh everything up. And it may also, you also have to consider what your star sign is, because different star signs are going to be impacted by different planetary energies. I mean, that's obvious. If you take the view that different signs, okay, maybe not just star signs. I mean, I know that some people look at my forecasts of the 12 signs and they do it not by the sun sign, but they use their ascendant or even the moon sign, and I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Okay, so that is the broad planetary picture. I don't think that for most of us it's going to be a particularly eventful day, actually. And I've said that. I think I said that yesterday, and I think I might have said that the day before as well. I think we're just going through a patch where there's not a great deal going on in most cases. I think tomorrow things are starting to stir up more. I mean, tomorrow we've got there's the sun. The sun is starting to move towards a square of Uranus. So we may be starting to pick up on that sun square Uranus, but it's not exact until tomorrow, Thursday. So perhaps we're coming to the end of this rather dull period, and that things are going to hot up very soon. Okay, so what I want to do now is look at the 12 signs and make my forecasts for today, which is Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024. Aries, you are actually quite charismatic today, Aries. You know how to communicate. You know how to get people on your side. You don't have to think too much about it. It's just something that comes naturally to you. And this can certainly help you. Certainly, I think in terms of work. So if you're going into work today, I think you'll be able to make a powerful impression, and at the same time, when you talk to people, people are just going to like you, and yeah, as I said, you're charismatic, and it will, you'll give the impression that you really have got something to offer. Now, I have said that the moon, this Moon Venus conjunction in Capricorn could be a bit selfish, but Aries, in some respects, you don't really think that the material things are the be all and end all of your existence. Many Arians just are not. They're not particularly obsessed about money. It's all about action. And they kind of regard money as something a bit annoying that they have to deal with. And in that sense, I think you can be quite spontaneous. And, this spontaneity, even if you are sort of thinking about your own interests, is going to make you new friends. And I think, you have a chance to... cut quite a powerful image. And I think also today you're going to be very good at networking. You're going to be very good at talking to the people who matter, and you can make new connections. You've just got the skill, you've got the knack. At least today you've got the knack. It's just important that you make the most of what you've got, and in terms of relationships, from an Aries perspective, Libra is your opposite sign. Venus rules Libra. There is a Moon Venus conjunction in Capricorn, which is an important sign for you, and because it's an angular sign, it's prominent, and it is connected with how you present yourself, and this Moon Venus conjunction may make you not just charismatic, but it also has something to do with the way you appear. It might be something to do with your appearance. You can look good today without having to try too much, but avoid the temptation to be vain. Venus, where it is right now in the Aries horoscope, slight vanity. Okay, there's nothing wrong with a bit of vanity, but just don't go over the top on that vanity. Now, in terms of other people and how you relate to them, with Venus, your relationship ruler, trine Uranus, there could be some surprises. So don't make assumptions about other people. Don't assume that they're going to behave in a particular way. Consider the possibility that they behave in a way that is completely different to what you're expecting, and be prepared to see another and probably quite interesting side to another person's personality, and then you can work out where things go from there. Taurus, it does look quite good today because your ruling planet, Venus, is really configured extremely well, at least from a Taurian perspective. So the thing about Venus is that firstly it's conjunct the Moon, and it's also trine Uranus. So you've got this trine in Earth signs. You've got Venus in Capricorn, Moon in Capricorn, trine Uranus in Taurus. Yeah, Uranus in your star sign. And I think this is a time when you can, I think, you can be quite original, and you can perhaps show a rather surprising side to your personality. Sometimes people assume that Taurians, like to do the same old thing, the same old way, day in, day out. It's not true, really. At least today, it's not true. Today you can spring some surprises, and those surprises will, I think, put you in a really very good light. And in the Taurian chart, for quite some time, years, the planet Uranus, the planet of surprises, the planet of revolutions, the planet of earthquakes, has been moving through your star sign. So at some level, Taurus, you really wanted to stir things up, but you don't always get the opportunity. Well, today you do get the opportunity. Today you can really stamp your unique personality onto the world, and in a way that's not going to cause too much trouble. People will just accept you, and people will just accept you, for what you are. And I think that's going to be very, very fortunate. Though Taurus, don't be tempted though, or at least some Taurians might experience a temptation to do something that is kind of base and coarse, that really isn't you, but you're still going to be tempted to do it. I don't know what it is. Something that's underhand, might even be illegal, but don't do it. You don't have to do it. And just be aware of that temptation. It could be there, Taurus. So yes, do be careful. Now, in terms of relationships, I think it looks like quite a good day. I mean, it's a good day because I think in many respects you're a compelling personality. And at the same time, there are people out there who are going to be interested in people like you. So if you're looking for a new relationship for whatever reason, then yeah, I think you know how to get attention. And in terms of existing relationships, well, provided the other person understands you and understands your need to be unique and original and special, then that's not a problem. On the other hand, if you're in a relationship with someone who just expects you to be the same person, be a typical Taurus, then okay, there could be problems. So to an extent, it depends on the situation. But I would have thought, Taurus, that healthy relationships should prosper today. Gemini. Well, Gemini, it's a time when you're not really in the mood for wild extroversion. Not really. You do value your privacy today. Not just today. I think over the last few days, your privacy has been important to you. Although we shouldn't forget that Mercury, your ruling planet, has moved out of Capricorn. It's now gaining strength in Aquarius. So yes, you might value your privacy, but at the same time, you're starting to look for variety. And in some respects, there's a contradiction there. You can't want variety and want your privacy at the same time. And I think variety is something that you will find. And also think that there could be surprise meetings. This is helped by the fact that, if you look at the sun is starting to make a square aspect to Uranus, and so in general that does stir things up. There's a certain sense of excitement and tension, and you're able to integrate this tension into the way you come over in the world, and also into the way you relate. And because of this ability to integrate, yes, you might want you might want some privacy, but at the same time, you're able to come over, as a really very interesting person, as someone who's got some very, very original ideas. And, because ideas are important today, not just today, with Mercury going into Aquarius, new ideas are what people want. And I think those new ideas are really something you can provide. So, relationships that are based on originality, on doing things that are different, and freedom. Those kind of things should work out extremely well. And yes, you know how to attract people. No doubt about that. So in a way, if you were to just be obsessed about your own privacy today, might be the easy option, but you'd be wasting a big opportunity here. I think the right people today, Gemini, could be very good for you. Cancer. The moon continues to move through Capricorn, your opposite sign, and the moon makes a conjunction to Venus. So, moon conjunct Venus, it's easy to work through the symbolism there, because it is about relating and being able to relate, and knowing how to make people happy and comfortable. And I think also there's a sense in which you understand what people want and what makes them tick. I mean, once you know what people want, then really you're in a very powerful position. You know what makes them tick. So in a way, that puts you in a position where you can actually be quite manipulative. So you might appear to be easygoing. You might appear to be the kind of person who lets others take the initiative. But, all the while, you're monitoring the situation. And yes, I think that you can be manipulative, but I must stress in a very gentle kind of way. I suppose, and I suppose you just have to kind of half leave your ego behind. It's certainly not a day for getting obsessed about your own ego. It is a day for just seeing what people have to offer, seeing how people behave. You watch people behave. That tells you all you need. Tells you all you need to know, and you can get a good idea about whether certain people can be trusted. And Cancer, don't ignore your social life. There could be surprise events happening today, which you weren't expecting. But just because they're surprising doesn't mean that you can't benefit from them. And yes, I think you can benefit from them. So yeah, if someone springs a surprise on you, be ready to spring a surprise back. And if you really listen to your feelings, though, you're never going to be entirely surprised, because you are going to be 5 seconds ahead of the other person. You'll get that feeling just before it happens. But I'm certainly not talking about bad events. I don't think. I'm just talking about just excitement and things happening. Though I think some of the people close to you, they may be trying a little too hard to be original. Originality is a theme today. And some people, they try too hard to be original. Even people you really care about can try too hard to be original. Because if someone tries too hard to be original, then they're not really original at all, are they? It's all very contrived. So don't be fooled by that. I'm saying this because Saturn is quintile Uranus. Saturn is ruler of Capricorn, your opposite sign, and so it's quintile. The style aspect is quintile Uranus. The attempts to create excitement and originality, but these attempts, they're going to seem rather contrived. So don't be fooled. But you're not going to be fooled because you understand what's going on. Leo, last couple of days, things have been a bit sort of understated for Leo. Leos have sort of, they've gone in their own way, and I think some of the thoughts that Leos have been experiencing have been a bit strange. I think you've had a certain amount of self-doubt recently. You haven't wanted to go all the way, and you might have felt that the world around you has just been going too quickly, and you've been wanting to you've perhaps been wanting to delay things, and too much delay is just going to mess things up, isn't it? I mean, it's you can have a bit of delay, but you can't delay the inevitable, because if you do, well, you're not going to be very effective. So what should you be doing today? Well, I think today is really about understanding what your obligations are. You do have a set of obligations, for sure. There are things you are expected to do. Now, it may feel unfair that you are expected to do certain things, but that's the way it goes. You shouldn't really complain too much. Not today, because there really isn't time to complain. Because if you were to complain that you've been lumbered with the stuff you need to do, then you complain, then you're not going to be able to do it, are you? Because you're going to be too busy complaining, and too busy having resentments and so forth. But I do think that you can benefit by just by executing your various obligations. It might feel boring, but you're certainly doing something useful. And I think you're doing something that is quite impressive. And, most importantly, you are creating a world in which you can navigate. It's important that you're able to navigate the world in which you live in. And sometimes it's important to make small changes to the world, but maybe other people don't notice. But nonetheless, make it much easier for you to get things done. And I think that should be your focus. Looking at relationships, I'm not convinced, really. I think that relationships are going to work best when they're focused on some joint task. So if you and someone else have got something that you both need to do, then sure, the relationship is going to work very well, because you've got a shared, you've got a shared obligation. And remember, the moon is in Capricorn today. So moon in Capricorn, it is so much going on today is transactional. I'm doing this because I'm going to get noticed doing this, and I'm going to be helping someone, and they're going to be able to help me. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, all that kind of stuff. It is very transactional today. And I think that if you're getting really close to someone, and you really want to get close to someone, you're just going to see stuff you probably just don't want to see anyway. You're just going to see someone that is not perhaps your kind of person. You may feel that there's a lot of inhibitions around when you get too close to someone. People aren't properly expressing themselves. So you probably don't want to go down that road. Just keep things transactional. Keep things keep things on the basis of shared obligations, shared duties, and that's how it should be. Because I think if you do get close to people, if you've got romantic aspirations, for example, I do think there's plenty of scope for being disappointed. Nonetheless, there does seem to be someone around you who is extremely charismatic and attractive, and it will be difficult to avoid them, I think. So bear that in mind. Virgo. Well, Virgo, everything is very well configured today, in the sense that Virgo, you're an earth sign, aren't you? Virgo is, it's an earth sign. And today there's a conjunction between the moon and Venus in Capricorn. Capricorn is an earth sign. And moon and Venus are both trine Uranus, which is in Taurus. So that's an earth sign. So you've got this trine involving moon and Venus and Uranus in earth signs. And so the empty earth sign, which is being influenced by this trine, is Virgo. So this action going on at a sort of social and interpersonal level is certainly impacting you, and I think can make your life pretty exciting. So see what people have got to be offered. See what people have got to offer. See how they can make your life more interesting, but also consider what you have to offer. At the moment, you do have a certain sense of excitement to you, and I think that your excitement can be quite infectious, and I understand that excitement is not a word that is often connected with Virgo, because the stereotypical Virgo is just obsessed about detail and so forth. Of course, that's not true entirely, but you're able to communicate an excitement which other people are going to find to be very interesting, and what you're doing is you need to get people going, and not just from a relationship perspective. You can make small moves and set people off and create a kind of fast-moving energy field, which you can certainly benefit from. That's what I mean by this trine between Moon and Venus is in Capricorn, trine Uranus in Taurus, and that trine then hits your star sign, and I think that in general you can really have some interesting contacts today. So I think there is a lot going on today, and hopefully, Virgo, you're able to take advantage of it all. Libra. Well, Libra, I think that a lot of your energy could be focused on your own private world. I understand that Libra is a sign that is, often connected with socializing, mixing with different people, perhaps not getting too close to any one person, but just always being there, moving from one social scene to another. But somehow today, I think you will feel a certain inclination to back off. I think you will feel most comfortable when you're somewhere that you know and understand and trust. And I think this is highlighted by the fact that there is a conjunction between the moon and Venus. Venus is your ruler, moon is close to Venus. It's the moon-Venus conjunction. Really, it should be about being nurtured. There are certain people, Libra, who can nurture you, who can make you feel good about yourself. Not many people, really, but they are around, and you need those are the people you need to hang out with, and you don't need to hang out with these people in the sort of high-profile places. That's not necessary. Indeed, Virgo, probably, the less traveling, the better. And if you can stay in one place, that would be great. But do allow yourself the possibility of being excited, because Venus, your ruler, is trine Uranus. Uranus is a planet of excitement. It's a planet of revolution. It's a planet of the unexpected. So do be aware of that, and allow that excitement to develop. And perhaps this excitement will develop, not through what people say, but through just a feeling. It's just something you feel that makes you excited. And it may be you'll have a realization or a revelation, and suddenly everything's happening, and you don't have to go anywhere. The most exciting place might be, Libra, where you are right now. Scorpio. Scorpio, you are able to express yourself extremely well today, without really having to try. And you've got things to say, you've got things to communicate. You don't have to go out of your way to deliver the message, because you can deliver the message. It's just right in front of you. That metaphorical post box, you can get your message across very easily. And it might be a good idea, Scorpio, to consider some of the people in your immediate environment. Whether if you're working, there may be people you see every day but you never talk to. In your home environment, there may be people you see every day just walking around your neighborhood. You never talk to them. But today you can reach out to these people who you normally don't communicate with. They may not even know who you are, may not know what your name is, anything. But today, I think you can break the ice. And you're not going to break the ice just because you want to talk for the sake of it. I think you'll feel it's actually in some way necessary. But if people who spend their lives together in close proximity, even if they don't know each other and if they don't talk to each other, if they are able to communicate, then I think in many respects both sides can benefit. So Scorpio, that's perhaps something you should be considering. But as far as relationships are concerned, the moon is conjunct Venus. Venus is ruler of your opposite sign, Taurus, and so moon conjunct Venus means you can have very productive relationships with new people and old, and most importantly, you can express yourself, and they can express themselves, and so because all sides know what's going on, I can't see any real problems. So in general, Scorpio, yeah, it looks like being a good opportunity to make new friends, and also perhaps to take advantage of people. I mean, sorry, that's not the wrong word. I don't mean take advantage. I mean to interact with people who you can benefit from, and probably they can benefit from you as well. So it's a kind of sort of mutual advantage there. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, I think that you continue to be a little bit cautious. I don't think this is really a typical Sagittarian day. I think that you seem to have a sense of your own limitations. There are limits to what you can do. You just don't see the opportunities. The opportunities just aren't there, and you're not really in the mood for doing anything particularly dramatic, and that's fine. What you should probably do, is just focus on making yourself comfortable, making yourself feel secure in a material sense. Like yesterday. Yesterday I think when I was talking about Sagittarius, I talked about money, and money is still important. What you have matters. I know, it's often say, we shouldn't worry about money, money will sort itself out. But no, in Sagittarius, Sagittarians can be very non-material. Money is just something to hold you back. But no, you do need to consider money. I mean, money really does matter. But I'm not advocating you get obsessed about money. You just need to understand its role in your life, and it does seem, Sagittarius, that you can have contact with people who, from a financial point of view, you can actually benefit from. So who are these people? Maybe a discussion about money can be very useful and can bring fast results. Maybe if you need money, want money, talking to the right person is just all you need to do. In terms of relationships, in one sense, I don't think you're particularly in the mood for getting really close to any one particular person. On the other hand, there are people out there who are exciting. People who I think will recognize you, and they'll see your potential for creating excitement. And if you give these people a chance, then they may want to get close to you, and you can see what they've got to offer. So, in spite of your own lack of enthusiasm, I think there could be favourable developments in terms of relationships. Capricorn. There's a conjunction between the moon and Venus today, and it's in Capricorn. That means that you are a person who right now can come over as being really quite pleasant. You're just the person people want to have around. You seem reassuring. you know how to make people feel comfortable, and once you've made people feel comfortable, they can start opening up and communicating. Yeah, you just seem to have that ability right now. Of course, Capricorn, you're not doing all this out of the goodness of your heart. You can see the benefits here. If you're nice to people, you will benefit. You can't fail to benefit, I don't think. I don't think, you're being naive being nice to people. Okay, there's always a possibility of naivety, but I think you're always thinking in every situation you're in, certainly today, what's in it for me? That's fine. It's not really a problem. And that's the way it goes. And also, I should say that Capricorn, in many respects, you're quite an attractive person today. You do stand out, and if you make any attempt to socialize, to be with people, I think your charisma is going to be quite obvious. And this certainly gives you an opportunity to get things from people, if that's what you want to do, or to get close to people, to make contact with people who you've decided you need to get in contact with for material benefits. That should not be a problem. In fact, Capricorn, I would have said that, of 12 signs, you're probably in the best position, because of this Moon-Venus conjunction in Capricorn. Are you going to be entirely materialistic all day? Are you going to be only thinking of yourself? Well, there is a Moon-Venus conjunction in your star sign, and it is trine Uranus. It's a very creative trine, actually. Venus trine Uranus, and Venus has a certain association with career, your work, whatever that work might be, and trine Uranus, you can find ways of being creative which you can also benefit from in a financial and material sense. So don't be afraid of being creative. Don't be afraid of doing things that, particularly workmates, employers weren't expecting. Within reason, always within reason. But your creative spirit is strong today, Capricorn, and I think if you use it, you'll be amazed at what you can actually achieve. Aquarius. Well, Aquarius, you probably feel that you don't want to be out there in the world. You're just not in the mood. But that doesn't mean to say you should follow this line of least resistance. Yes, your line of least resistance is probably to stay away from other people. But, that might be a shame. Because I do think that you've got a lot to offer, certainly. I think, like Capricorn, you are quite attractive and charismatic, and you're clearly someone that knows a lot, and you're someone who is slightly unusual. But I think people want to know you. You're someone who can make things happen. But are you going to make things happen? You just may not be in the mood. So perhaps, Capricorn, you've kind of got to get yourself in the mood, though I'm not advocating... Sorry, Aquarius, isn't it? Aquarius, I'm not advocating that you be a wild extrovert. Maybe, Aquarius, what you should do is you should, let other people come to you to a certain extent. It's not really down to you to take all the initiatives, but you've got to create openings for people to get into contact with you, because I think it's through those openings that really things can actually start to happen. Now, as far as relationships are concerned, if you want to get involved with other people, you possibly have to pick and choose, because it does seem that certain people have a rather negative view of the world. They're just not fully engaged. They might take ages to get things done, and that could be frustrating. They could take ages to get in touch with you, if at all. So perhaps those kind of people need to be filtered out, because if you hang around with those kind of people, your prejudices about the world at large may just be fulfilled. No, you need if you're going to have people around you, they've got to be dynamic and they've got to be positive, and they can't have any sort of negativity. But the right kind of people are going to be attracted to you. They're going to come your way, because in your own way you are a very appealing person at the moment. Pisces, like yesterday, I think your social life is important. Probably more so than yesterday, because today, Pisces, there is a conjunction between the Moon and Venus in a highly sociable sector of your solar chart. And I think that you can mix with lots of different people. You don't have to adopt the same style for everyone. You're a Pisces. Part of you can mold yourself on to other people once you understand what kind of person they are. So you meet one person, you're this kind of person. You meet another person, you're that kind of person. You can make these kind of changes very quickly, and I think that's really going to help you in terms of pushing your social life to the next level. So yes, you really do have to consider what other people have to offer, because they do have a great deal to offer, and I think that you're going to be able to communicate very well, and by the same time, the people you meet, whether you know them or whether they're just you've met them for the first time today, they're also going to be very compelling. So I don't think you're going to be bored when you've got lots of people around you, because when you've got lots of people around you, there is going to be a sense of excitement, and that's going to make your day a whole lot better. But as far as other things are concerned, it's not just about socializing for the sake of socializing. I mean, let's face it, the moon is in Capricorn. Moon in Capricorn is thinking about itself. What is in it for me? No, it doesn't mean you have to be selfish, but I think perhaps, Pisces, what you're really thinking about is the future. Not what's going to happen today, but maybe what's going to happen next month, even next year, just a bit in the future. And you kind of feel that things are great, things are okay at least, but they could be better. And you're trying to imagine a future where things could be better. And I think that by meeting new people, the right kind of new people, that can give you a glimpse of the future. So perhaps what you should do is you should consider what kind of future you want to live, short to medium term, and then start to configure your life and the people around you in such a way that future genuinely becomes possible. So those are the 12 signs, and I want to now look at the week, sorry, not the week, the day. It's Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024. I want to look at the day in terms of the I Ching. So, as always, I ask the question, what is Wednesday going to be like for watching, for what is Wednesday going to be like for those watching the I Ching segment of this video? So the first hexagram I got was this, 29, the abysmal. In fact, this is the only hexagram I got because it didn't move. So on the surface, you might see the abysmal and you might think, well, that's dreadful. I mean, it's abysmal, isn't it? Not really. The abysmal is about danger. It's about abysses. It's about things we might fall into, holes in the ground without a bottom. So we certainly have to watch how we go today. But, because this hexagram is locked, it's not actually going anywhere. So abysmal locked is perhaps talking about more of a state of being, rather than a sort of a dynamic situation where we move from, say, safe to dangerous, dangerous to even more dangerous. So it's more of a static situation. And I think what we need to do is just simply understand the situation. And we just have to work with the situation, and we need to work with nature, and we have to understand where our strengths are. I was thinking of Steve Irwin, that the guy who was into snakes in Australia, and he died a long time ago. So was it 2006 or something like that? But he would play around with all these incredibly dangerous snakes, and he never got hurt. He seemed to got bitten, because I suppose he was in his element. This was a danger he understood. And then he went underwater and confronted a stingray and got killed by the stingray because it stung him in the heart. It almost felt like he was in a world that he didn't really. He was dealing with a new set of dangers, a danger that he didn't understand. Perhaps, I don't know. But with snakes, he understood everything about them, and he just had a feeling for them. And so perhaps that's what the abysmal is about. We can confront dangers provided we understand the dangers. There are certain dangers that all of us understand and can work with, but there are other dangers we can't work with. And so perhaps that is what we need to consider. And we need to develop a way of working which is consistent and which isn't crazy, which doesn't suddenly go off on tangents, doesn't suddenly decide to deal with new dangers we're not fully familiar with, and in that way we should be okay. Now, in terms of dealing with other people, yes, there are dangers here. It is a locked hexagram, but that doesn't mean to say we can't look at the nuclear hexagram. So the nuclear hexagram is the hexagram in the middle. It's kind of the hidden hexagram. You see, if you take the second line from the top and you look at the second line from the top, the third line from the top, and the fourth line from the top, you create a top hexagram, a top trigram. And then if you do the same thing with the second line to the bottom, third from the bottom, and fourth from the bottom, you get another third, you get another hexagram, another trigram, and that is the nuclear hexagram. So the nuclear hexagram within the abysmal is this one, that one. You see? Does that make sense? I'll just do that one more time. There it is. You take second from the top, third from the top, fourth from the top. That's your top 3 lines. Then you take the second from the bottom, third from the bottom, and the fourth from the bottom. That's your bottom 3 lines. And that gives you the nuclear hexagram, which is the corners of the mouth. And, one way of looking at the corners of a mouth is that if you want to understand someone, if you want to know whether someone can be trusted, you look at what they feed on. You look at what turns them on. Once you understand what turns someone on, once you understand what someone feeds on, then you can make a decision about whether to trust them. You can work out whether or not they're dangerous. And so that may be part of what's going on with the abysmal. Just understanding the dangers, flowing with it, allowing things to just be natural, and always making sure that we use our own talents in an effective way, and we don't try to employ talents which we don't have, or which are only half formed. And I thought by doing that, I think we'll not only get through the abysmal, but I think we can actually profit from it. And so do the right thing. The day should be okay. So that's okay. That's the I Ching finished. And finally, I want to look at the situation with King Charles. King Charles. Okay, so here's King Charles's chart. He was born on November the 14th, 1948, and in London. Now, sometimes I get criticism from people commenting on looking at royal charts. Who cares about royalty? Now, I must concede, I myself am not particularly interested in the British royal family. But royalty do have certain advantages from an astrological perspective. When King Charles was born in 1948, his time of birth was also published. I think they stick it on the gates of Buckingham Palace or whatever. So we know that he was born not just at 9:15. He was born at 9:14 p.m. So we have a good picture of his chart. Now, last month when I did my video for the week ahead, starting on Monday, January the 15th, I did highlight Prince Charles. I did think that there may be some issues going on. Reason being, there's his moon in Taurus. Pluto was about to go into Aquarius. So when Pluto goes into Aquarius, it squares his moon. And then I look forward to the full moon on January the 25th. And that full moon on January the 25th was, let's see if I can see the full moon. There was a full moon for January the 25th. You can see that the moon was at 5:15 Leo. And so there's King Charles's chart. His ascendant is at 5:24 Leo. So, I did think that something was going to be happening, but where I kind of failed was, I didn't really think about health. I was thinking in a more general sense. But now we know. It's not about Meghan and Harry, it's about his health. So that is now what we should be thinking about. And the announcement that he had cancer, which was announced by the palace, I mean, I looked at the BBC website, and from what I could gather, the announcement seemed to happen around 10 a.m. on the morning of Monday, the 5th of February. So here's the announcement. Here's a chart for the announcement. So what's interesting about this announcement is that Mercury had just gone into Aquarius. Mercury changes sign. We get an announcement. From a perspective of London, Mercury is square the ascendant, and it's quite sort of elevated there. And it's, of course, it's conjunct Pluto. Mercury conjunct Pluto. And so while I understand that Charles would have known days, even weeks before that he'd had this cancer diagnosis, this is when his subjects found out, his kingdom found out. And so that Mercury-Pluto conjunction was exactly square his moon. And I do think that is fitting. Now, this conjunction happened the day after the Sun made a 45-degree aspect to the Aries point. So the Sun would make a 45-degree aspect to the Aries point when it was exactly at 15 Aquarius, because 15 Aquarius is 45 degrees from the Aries point, because you got half of Aquarius, you got the whole of Pisces, so that's 1.5 signs, which is 45 degrees. That's 1/8 of the circle. And as I emphasize in these videos, you got to look at those 1/8 of the circle, 45 degree, 135 degree aspects. They are really important. You can't do astrology without them, in my opinion, and in my opinion, they're more important than sextiles and trines. What I thought was important was not just the announcement, but the moment the Sun was exactly at 15 degrees Aquarius, that precise moment. So this is the moment, February the 4th, 2024, at 8:27 a.m. That was the moment. And I've set this for London because clearly this is an event that happened in London. Or London being the capital of the UK. So we notice that obviously the Sun is direct exactly at this 15 degrees 0 minutes Aquarius. That's the whole point of the chart, to take the exact moment that the Sun was at 15 degrees 0 minutes Aquarius. So at that exact moment, Saturn is rising, pretty much quite close, just over a degree from the ascendant. So when you've got Saturn rising, you have a certain sense of a heavy event, something heavy perhaps for the country. So that's the first thing that we notice. Then we look at the Sun, and we can see that the Sun is approximately 22 degrees from Saturn. Then we look at Mars, and we see that the Sun is approximately 22 degrees from Mars. So in other words, at the precise time of that the Sun was at 15 degrees Aquarius, at the precise time when it was 45 degrees from the Aries point, it was exactly on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. And, Mars and Saturn is about, the Mars-Saturn pair can be about death and fear of death. Looking at my favourite book, Alfred Witter and his co-workers' rules for planetary pictures, we can actually read what it says about Mars, about the Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. And the Sun is quite a male planet, isn't it? I mean, it can, I suppose, be about kingship. So the Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint, well, he says, death, sickness, personal difficulties. I think he could have gone into more detail there. It's a bit brief, but that is a way of looking at it. And if you look at the midpoints, let me just make this a bit bigger. There's a midpoint tree for the Sun, and you'll notice that the Sun is exactly, this is the orb on the right, is exactly on the Mars-Saturn midpoint, and the Sun is also on the Mars ascendant midpoint. But the Mars on the ascendant midpoint is important because it marks London as the place where it all happened. So going back to that chart, this Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint was the case all over the world. There's nothing special about London. But here, it's not just Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint, it's also Sun on the Mars-Saturn conjunct ascendant midpoint. And there are only certain places where Saturn would be conjunct the ascendant. So I do think that this Sun 45 degrees from the Aries point chart is actually was quite important for the timing of this event with Charles. So what other stuff was going on with Charles? Certainly two important transits, and that full moon, by the way, that full moon across his ascendant was, full moons are about revelation, something coming to the surface. So, with the full moon on Charles's ascendant, I was kind of thinking about relationships and enemies and whatever, but really, the ascendant is about the body. It's about the person. And so he goes into hospital for this prostate enlargement, and that's when the revelation comes. The full moon shows that he has got some kind of cancer, and it's kind of quite a fortunate revelation, isn't it? I mean, it's good to find it out. It's not, obviously one doesn't want to hear that one's got cancer, but the full moon certainly shows the truth of the matter, and obviously from that stage, he can start to be treated for it. So are full moons unfortunate? Well, in this case, you could say, in some respects, the full moon was quite fortunate because it told him the truth about his medical condition. Now, that full moon did not just impact him. So here is here's King Charles's natal chart. Just again, remember his ascendant is at 524 Leo. Now here is the chart of his wife Camilla, Queen Consort. Is that right? Her ascendant is 454 Leo. So that full moon was not just hitting Charles's ascendant; it was also hitting Camilla's ascendant, and in a way, full moon on her ascendant, saying something's happening to her husband. So I do think that that does work quite well. Another thing with Charles is his solar arc directions. So here is his solar arc directions for the Monday when this announcement came out, and we can put that alongside his natal chart. So King Charles's natal chart and the directions, and we can see that it's a bit big. We can see with Charles that his his solar arc directed Saturn is at 2143 Scorpio. Now, what do I mean by that? The principle of solar arc directions is that you take the planets at birth and you move them 1 degree. You move them 1 degree for every year of life. So there is Saturn when King Charles was born at 516. And so what you do, if you want to know what Saturn's going to be doing to him when he's 75 years old, you literally move Saturn 75 degrees. And so when you move Saturn 75 degrees, you see that Saturn is at 2143 Scorpio. And you see that his sun is at 2225 Scorpio. So Saturn is now moving towards the conjunction of his sun. It's not quite there yet. And I suppose Saturn is starting to sort of restrict him. He can feel that Saturn. It's quite heavy for him. And I don't know, that may be something about, as it's still going on, as it's still ongoing, we might expect the next year to be difficult for King Charles, and maybe not just because of there's cancer, any treatment for it. It's just going to be a difficult time for him. And I suppose you could say, well, Saturn conjunct Sun, there's been talk about whether or not he'll abdicate. I'm not going to speculate at this stage, but he does have Saturn conjunct his sun. It progressed, solar arc directed Saturn conjunct his sun. Cancer or no cancer, it's all going to be quite difficult for him. Now, as far as death is concerned, now, please don't get me wrong here. I'm not making any attempt to predict his death. But cancer is potentially a life-threatening disease, and I just did want to look at his chart from from a perspective of an astrological system that has often been used to predict death. And so what I'm kind of looking for is I'm trying to be like John Worsdale. And say, well, what is the terminus vitae? What would one look for? And I'm just using this as an example. Astrologers don't go around predicting the death of kings. That's not something astrologers do. That's not, in historic times, bad things would happen to them if they did that. So this is not what I'm doing. Going to King Charles's chart, and I'm very wary here talking about this kind of stuff because different astrologers have different views, and if you have a view about primaries and the high leg, which I'm about, the high leg, Hyleg, the high leg is a planet in someone's chart that is the giver of life. And you must choose. If you're trying to predict how long someone is going to live or when someone is in danger, you have to find the high leg. And I think in Charles's chart, it's quite easy to find the high leg. So the high leg, in general, in a night chart, is going to be the moon. And in a day chart is going to be the sun. Now, that is a generalization because there are only certain houses that the sun or moon can be in order to be the high leg. But I don't want to get into too many details here. But with King Charles, he's got the moon in Taurus. It's a nighttime chart because he was born at 9:14 p.m. November the 14th. So his moon, I feel fairly confident that his moon is high leg. So if you were trying to predict a potentially dangerous period for King Charles, you would probably look for a primary direction that would hit his moon. So what do I mean by a primary direction? Primary direction, what you do is you you'd look at basically all the primaries you're going to have in your life take place in the first 6 hours of life. So as the Earth moves, maybe a bit longer than that, because people can live longer than 90s, 6, 7, 8, 7 hours of life, 8 hours of life max, absolute maximum. So as the Earth moves, every 1 degree the Earth moves represents 1 year of life. And that's the basic principle of primary directions. And you move things not just in the zodiac, but in mundo. I'm not going to get into the details here. So what we would be looking for is a primary direction that hit his moon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a program called Marinus, Pi Marinus, I think it's called. This program you can download for free. So I know that primaries might sound, they are quite complex, and until quite recently it was quite difficult to find programs that did them, but there is this program Pi Marinus which is completely freely available. And so what I did, what it does is it just spits out all the primaries that someone, you can get it to do all the primaries in someone's life. I'm using a very basic Ptolemy system if you're interested. If we turn to the primaries, these are these are actually his primaries for the time that his Princess Diana was killed. So she was killed on August the 31st, 1997. Now, the moon is high leg, I believe, in King Charles's chart, but the moon is also a sort of general significator of women. And if we look at his chart, he had on June the 2nd, 1997, primary Mars was opposition his moon. And then a bit later on June the 6th, 1998, Mars was again opposition his moon, but this time it was a zodiacal thing. There are 2 ways of calculating it, in mundo and zodiacal. So 1997 approximately, he had directed Mars opposition his moon. And I think the way one works with primaries is one finds an approximate area, like perhaps a year, 6 window, and then one uses other techniques to try to fine-tune it. So he had primary Mars opposition his moon when Diana was killed in 1997. So let me just show you how that would have worked. So going back to his chart, you see, there's his moon and there's Mars. So as the Earth turned, Mars, it had already set, Mars was getting lower and lower in the sky. And so it would go lower, 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 lower. And when it got up to around here, it was making the primary opposition to the moon. And that would have been in 1997, perhaps the beginning of 1998, and then you would have used other techniques to fine-tune exactly where it was. So I think primaries does seem to indicate a time where his wife was in danger. Although you could say that his life was in danger as well. So he actually survived. So he already, at the time his wife was killed, he actually was going through a dangerous period himself. But it wasn't him that died, it was his wife. So let's go back to that and find something more current. Going forward with primaries, let's move forward. Let's jump forward to the present. That's 2024. So we're looking for an aspect to his moon. a hard aspect to his moon in this column here. And we actually find it, we find this hard aspect 28th of January 2026. So that is in about 2 years' time. In Mundo, Saturn is semisquare his moon. So at that time, he possibly has to be quite careful. And you can see that we've also got Uranus is on his midheaven here. So he's going to have on 2026, he's got Saturn semisquare his moon, and he's got Uranus moving to his midheaven in 2026. So 2026 could be a difficult year. So let's just try to make some sense of that. Going back to his chart, I won't use Uranus again. So what does that mean? It means that here is Saturn in his natal chart. So it's moving, it's directed to such a point where it is making a semisquare to his moon. And that's there's Uranus. You can see that Uranus is directed. So if you approximately 77, if you move the Earth 77 degrees approximately, that takes Uranus right up to his midheaven. And so that's where there may be, you could say, well, that might be when he decides to abdicate. Also in 2026, if Saturn is making a semisquare to his moon, that's maybe a point where his life is in danger. But having said that, he already survived. He survived a much worse aspect to his moon in 1997. So please, I'm not making any predictions here. I'm just sort of moving forward to 2026. It may be that Saturn semisquare his moon is not about death. It may be about abdication, perhaps. That is a possibility. So I think that is something to consider. I just want to quickly return to his solar arc directions. That's Prince William. I don't think there's King Charles's solar arc directions. Now, at the moment, his solar arc directed midheaven is conjunct his Uranus right now. So in 2 years' time, his solar arc, his primary Uranus is on his midheaven. What do I think about that? Those two facts together, people, I would say, make me think that, I'm not making a prediction here, but I'm thinking maybe over the next year or two, I think he may really want to abdicate. Uranus is hitting his, we don't know with primaries, that just gives a general idea about when it happens. So 2026, we've got his primary Uranus on his midheaven, and I think that, that might indicate abdication. And also right now, he's got the midheaven exactly on his Uranus. So this is something to do with, his whole... It's not, it's that Uranus on his midheaven is not really, I would have said, about his health. I think it's more about his position as king. But I will be looking more at Prince King Charles's chart in greater detail, as I do this channel. But I should make it clear that I wish him all the best. I hope, I'm sure he'll get over it. And so, please don't think I'm predicting death or anything. I'm just using it as an example of how one might use astrology, certainly in the past. So I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he's got the best medical treatment in the world, and I'm sure it'll be he'll get through. I'm not saying it on the basis of astrology. I'm just using logic, and we shouldn't get too caught up in the primary directions. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this video. As usual, I've probably gone on for far too long. If you enjoyed this video or you found the video useful, I would be grateful if you liked it. If you're not subscribed, of course, and you did enjoy it, then I would also be very grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. Thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.